You're good. We're live.
We're live. You can see that too.
Yes, I can.
How are
I
you
can't see
today?
as much with the iPad, but
Sometimes it takes a couple of minutes for the comments
to
to show
start
up
coming
as
in, yeah.
well. The internet
So,
also seems a little jerky today too. Hopefully that settles in a bit.
yeah, not as
So what?
nice out today as it was yesterday.
No.
But
So what are you doing with your Sunday today?
um, nothing. I'm actually a little tired, so just
Too much
taking it easy
celebrating from your big
from
party last night?
celebrating. Yep, yep,
A party of two?
yep. Party of two and a bottle of champagne.
Happy 39th anniversary, by the way.
I know, 39. Hard to believe.
It's a long time.
Yes, it is a long time, but just seems like yesterday.
Would you do it again if you had the chance?
Yes, I
Yes.
would.
Good stuff. Good
I
stuff.
would, but it's like, don't you find as like even though we're in the middle of a pandemic, it's almost been a year. Like, does it seem like it's been a year?
No.
Like it's gone by fast, and it's people used to say that the older you got, the faster time went by, and I didn't believe them, and it's so true.
I know. I can remember my parents saying that, and I thought, no, time is time. It's exactly the same, but no, it's not true.
Don't you remember when you were a kid how long the summer seemed?
Yes.
And now the summer just goes like that.
Yes.
So anyway, oh, we have some people. We have Vonda from Sarnia. And Mary says they have miserable weather. I don't know if she's here. Like for us, at least it's not snowing, right? That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Oh, and we've got Ridgetown. The sun just came out there. I think it was trying to peek out a little bit here.
At least it's warmer. It's
Yeah.
7
Yep.
degrees again today. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to
Yeah.
our live Sunday knit chat. And this is sort of where we just get together for an hour or so on a Sunday afternoon. Noelle and I have access to your comments and your questions and just spend some time, hopefully, just to help happen. Oh gosh, I can't talk again today. Help a day go by. It would be nice if we could get together in a coffee shop in a large group, but honestly, for right now, this is okay too.
Yep.
And it's so nice to see everybody joining in. We've got from Australia again, Michelle. You're
I
up
know.
so
Isn't it
early,
really? I think
or you're
Michelle.
up
Is
so
it really
late.
early there?
Yeah, it's almost 12 hours different.
Yeah. Oh, we have South Africa too.
Um,
Wow. And London, BC. Wow, that's the whole thing though, Kelly. If we were just in a coffee shop here, we wouldn't have people from all over joining us.
exactly,
So that's really
exactly.
nice. Oh, we've got Texas too. I hope it's getting better in Texas. I know they had some pretty nasty weather and pretty nasty conditions for a while, so I hope things are kind of on the mend there. Like we've been relatively lucky, even though we've had some snow. Like as far as in Sarnia, we really haven't had that bad of a winter. So,
6
oh,
a.m. Monday morning
wow.
in Australia.
Yeah.
So yes, early start.
Well, thanks for joining us, Michelle.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So we're a podcast, and we try to schedule our podcast for every 3 weeks on a Sunday, and then on the off weeks we've started doing these knit chats, and we're having a lot of fun with them. It's it's completely different than the podcast, and it's just a lot of fun. So what are you working on today, Noelle?
I am trying to get this Western Rose sweater finished. Just hold it up here. This is a pattern by Tia Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I'm just working on the neck, and I think I've got about 3 inches done, and I've got another 3 or 4 inches to go because it's a funnel neck, and then just do the underarm seam. So that's what I'm trying to get finished up so that I can still wear it while the weather's cool. How about you?
I'm on the final few rows of my lightweight hipster.
Oh, nice. Jacqueline just started that today or yesterday, I think.
Did she?
Yeah, yeah. She's really liking it. Like because mostly she's been knitting socks, so she's finding it's a really nice change from knitting socks.
Mm-hmm.
How
Yeah,
about
it
everybody else?
is.
What's on everybody else's needles? I know I just cast off a couple of pairs of socks this week. So this is actually kind of my last whip, so I need to think of some new things to put on the needles.
I want to get a sweater going this week.
I
I
actually
was
started one. But
looking
I've only
in.
got it cast on, just the neck, but I'm gonna do the Aldous by Isabel Kramer.
Okay.
So and
I've been.
I'm using the Full Moon Fibers Eclipse fingering, the one with the black running through it.
I like that one.
Yeah, and it's got the dark greens and the peaches in it, and then I'm holding it with a strand of mohair. So, oh, we've got Janie says she's working on the Humulus and the Gold Wing. Those are nice patterns. I think Humulus is Isabel Kramer, and I think the other one is
Goldwing is Jennifer
yeah,
Steingass.
yes.
It's one of the ones I was poking around with yesterday. I'm looking
Oh, the
at
Gold Wing.
yarn. Yes, was looking at yarn, trying to decide what I wanted to cast on next.
Hmm. Oh, and let's see here. Debbie's doing socks and the saltwater mittens. The saltwater mittens, I think, were they in the book? I forget where they're from.
Newfoundland.
Is it Newfoundland?
Yes.
Okay, and we've got Barbara's doing socks. Sandy's doing a shawl, but she's actually ironing a fabric cut sleeve. That's interesting. Oh, Linda's doing golden garden socks. Aren't those the ones you just finished, Kelly?
Mm-hmm.
Weren't they the ones that, aren't they the color work ones?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're pretty. So,
They're
oh,
so fun
Eva's
to do.
doing she's doing the sock intro pattern for Sock Madness. Like I looked at the Sock Madness and I thought, no, there's too many rules. You had to knit the socks exactly the size they say that, and I thought and like you can't change the heels or the toes or anything in it. And I thought I don't think I could do that.
No.
So, but a lot of the socks look really interesting and challenging. That's for sure.
May Jo is reknitting socks that didn't fit too well.
Oh,
Oh dear. May Jo, tell us why they didn't fit well. What? That's always interesting, right? Like sometimes we all have made socks that
yep.
weren't the perfect pair for us, and it's interesting to find out if it was our error or pattern error or wrong choice of yarn, wrong choice of needles. Should you have gone up a size, down a size? Um, Hopefully she'll tight back in. The Brigitte
Yeah.
Garden socks, very pretty. That's our friend Natalie's pattern.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those are nice. I want to get another pair of colorwork socks on the needles. I like doing them.
Well, we have some perfect yarn to do that with, don't we, Noelle?
We do. Oh, we do. Yes, we do.
Oh, and
Which
Sarah
one are you
is.
talking about, Kelly? I have lots of yarn.
Sarah is reknitting her husband's sweater, and she said she's at the same place that she was in our last knit chat. She was so close to being done,
Yes.
and then she finished the sweater and it didn't fit, so she took it all out, and she's reknitting the sweater.
Oh,
Good
Sarah.
for you, Sarah.
You are. That's
Good
right.
for
I
you,
think if it was
Sarah.
me, I would have had to leave it till next year and then rip it out and do it again. Oh, Michelle.
Michelle
says
is.
that she finished her night shift. I know. Jacqueline really wants to make a night shift, so because she likes mine. But what else do we have? We have the painting bricks. I think that's isn't that one by
Stephen West.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Dark Water. I know that's Jennifer Steingass too, isn't it?
I'm not sure about that
I'm
one.
pretty sure it is.
So what Sarah had done in the last sweater that she knit too, she was telling us this in our Ravelry group, is that I'm pretty sure she did the neck, her ribbing, and
Oh,
then she didn't change her needles after that. So she
right.
knit the whole sweater in the smaller needles. I've done
So
that before.
Laura's
Well, I
here
haven't knit
from
a
the
whole sweater
UK. Hi,
before.
Laura. I have done that, but usually I've realized before I finish the whole thing, usually. But yeah, it's hard to believe when a lot of times it's only like maybe a needle size different, how much difference it can make in the finished garment though.
Mm-hmm.
So
May Jo said that she was doing contrasting heels and toes. Actually, I'll pop it up and then everybody can just see it. Maybe. There we go. No, I popped the wrong one up. I can't do two things at once, clearly.
so there we go.
So she said that she was doing contrasting heels and toes, and the yarn caused the looseness in the instep and the toes. So she knitted 12 pairs without that problem of the same yarn, May Jo. Like, that's interesting. So I wonder if that would be something from the manufacturer. That's really interesting. Or just one skein that was off.
Yeah, I wonder if sometimes it can be whatever the dye is though, if the dye affects the yarn differently or something. You know, because sometimes depending on even if it's the same brand, in a different color, the yarn will sometimes feel a little bit different. So I'm not sure if that's something that can cause that when you're knitting socks or not. And Giselle says she always knits the Hermione's everyday socks because she doesn't need the pattern. I've knit that one. It is a nice sock.
Mm-hmm.
But I always have to change it up and knit different ones, though, different patterns. Actually, today I was looking through for some sock patterns since I finished, and I really like the sock patterns by this Handmade Life. I think her name is Olivia, and she's got gorgeous sock patterns, and she's doing some that she did just recently that were based on Anne of Green Gables.
Mm-hmm.
So they were kind of neat just to read the little blurb about them. So anyway, so who knows? Maybe next week I'll have a pair of those cast on. Yes, and we just got confirmation that Dark Horse is Jennifer Steingass. Oh, and we have David, who is Heather.
Just for today,
Hi,
though,
David,
right?
Heather.
Hi, Heather. I was talking with Heather today. She said she was going to join us. So
Yeah.
welcome, everybody.
Oh, I'm gonna get mixed up now every time I see David asking us questions. Okay, David, Heather, yes, we did knit our sweaters. Kelly, what's your sweater?
I have a love note on, and I held it with a strand of mohair. It was a single ply Shalimar yarns, and I knit this one a while ago, but I wear it a lot. I really like the color. The yarn itself was a really light blue, and then the mohair was a navy, and it turned out a really pretty royal color, actually.
Yeah, and mine is the Zweig by Caitlyn Hunter, and mine's in Hedgehog Fiber Skinny Singles, and this one is at least 2 or 3 years old, but I love it. The sweater's nice and lightweight, but it's still enough warmth for this time of year and just really comfortable to wear. And it was fun to knit. I like doing the lace yoke. In fact, I considered I might do another one, but do it all in one color, but just like so that the yoke will really stand out.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty. I've always liked that one.
Yeah, it was a fun knit. There was a question about the love note, Kelly. Could you strand a lace weight merino and a lace weight mohair silk for the pattern? Well, I mean, you could, but it's going to be a whole lot airier than what yours is, right?
Right. Yes. And I think, like, you might have to size up.
Yeah.
But having said that, I've knit 2 love notes because I like the pattern so much.
Mm-hmm.
And In this one, I knit exactly the way I thought that I measured, and it actually came out, it gets pretty loose. And I know it's supposed to be, but this one it's quite loose, right? So then when I knit the second one, I went down a size, and it still could be a little smaller. So I don't feel like I knit loose. I think it's just the way the pattern. So maybe if you were combining those two weights, it might be okay for you. I don't swatch for every sweater, but maybe if you were going to try that, Sarah, that's definitely something I would swatch for. You don't want to knit another sweater. And you don't want to have to try to take out anything with mohair either. That would be tricky.
And I think if you look at yarn combining, I think they say if you combine a lace plus a lace, it basically gives you a fingering weight yarn. Whereas the Love Note, the weight that they actually call for is a DK, and a lot of people have gotten that by using the fingering with the mohair.
Yes.
So
now, I guess something else you could do, if you had a lot of those yarns, you could double something up.
Right.
Because in the Magnolia cardigan, you use 2 strands of mohair to knit that sweater.
Yes, I did. Yep. So. Yep. So she said maybe knit it at a slightly tighter gauge and knit a bigger size. Yeah, that would be. But you just kind of need to do your swatch to make sure it's going to turn out the size that you want. But the nice thing is that it is top down, so you can kind of try it on as you go.
Mm-hmm. So, Noelle.
Yes.
Why don't you show us, since you have it, what's in the box?
The box is under my iPad.
Oh. I meant to tell you when we were setting up, make sure the box is accessible. Okay.
Okay, just a minute. You keep talking while I move it.
Whoops.
Okay, well, I don't know if a lot of you have heard or not, but this past, yesterday, I guess, right?
Yesterday
was the launch for Leo and Roxy's new basics yarn line. So they actually gave some for me and Kelly to try out or use as prizes. So I'll hold it up and show you some of it here once I get my box back in place. Okay. So here's a couple of this is the basic skeins, like the larger skeins. So these are 100 grams. It is a 75-25 merino nylon, 465 yards in a 100-gram skein. This color is Pebble. This color is Queen's Navy. And then I've got some of the other colors here. So they've got 12 colors in all, and I like all of them.
They're so pretty.
They're gorgeous. And the yarn feels amazing. Basically, I'm going to do some colorwork socks with it because it is a bit finer of a yarn, and I think it would be really nice for colorwork socks because you won't have all that bulk in your shoe. Like, it'll still give you a nice weight sock, even with the double fabric that you kind of get if you're doing all over colorwork. Plus, the other thing that I thought I'd do with it is hold the yarn double and do some sweaters for the grandchildren because it's a superwash merino with the nylon in it. It should stand up. Plus, it can be thrown in the washer and dryer then, which is, something that is a huge advantage when you're knitting for kids. But the yarn feels amazing. The colors are beautiful. So we'll be showing more of that and more of what we've got on our next podcast. And we will be putting together some of the skeins with some minis for some prizes for our sock cal. Mm-hmm. So what do you think you want to do with it, Kelly?
Well, I definitely want to cast on some colorwork socks. Mm-hmm. And I haven't chosen a pattern yet. But I think
there's a pattern by Summer Lee that if you go to Little Red Mitten on their very opening page, there is a pair of shorty socks that are done. And it calls for one main color, although you wouldn't need a whole skein, and then 7 different colors. and I might do that. The only thing I wouldn't like about that is sewing in all the ends, but maybe if I just weave them in as I go.
I have taken to the weaving in method as I go, and then I just cut them off short at the back, like so they might hang a third of an inch into the
Yeah,
sock.
right.
And I'm okay with that because I'm completely over going back and weaving in
Go.
the ends. So I've been doing that. And that's how I did the last color work socks. I just twisted and wove it in to introduce the yarn
Right.
and then cut it off. They aren't going to come apart. They won't. I can guarantee it.
Yeah. Well, I know
So,
when I did the socks that were Natalie's pattern, and I did the ones that had the little sweaters and the socks and the bunting across the bottom.
yes.
Once I went to kind of the next part and I was changing color, I wove my ends in at that point so that by the time I was done, and I didn't have to go back and do the whole sock at once.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways. Okay, now Sandy says she always swatches because she's a loose knitter and she always has to go down in needles. You know what? I'm actually probably a tight knitter, and a lot of times I have to go up. But for some reason, when I knit a fingering weight yarn held with a mohair, I find that a lot of times I have to go down needle sizes because I'm actually knitting looser, and I don't know why that is. Because with everything else, I'm usually knitting tighter, and I have to go up. So maybe I'm just conscious of that mohair on there that to make sure that I catch both strands. I don't know, but I tend to knit looser when I do that. So don't know. And I don't actually always swatch. Actually, I think I swatched a few times.
Well, if
But
I'm familiar with the yarn, if I've used the yarn
yeah,
before,
yep.
I don't always swatch.
Well, that's right. And it depends if, even if I'm doing top down, like once I've done a little bit of the yoke, like I can pretty much judge by that what my tension is going to be and then adjust accordingly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes I'll start with the sleeve and get the tension from the sleeve and then again adjust accordingly. But if it's something like brand new that I've never worked with, or if I'm doing a sample knit or a test knit, in those cases I do a swatch to make sure it turns out the size that it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So
Linda wants to know about the Magnolia cardigan. You knit that as
yes, I
as
did.
a
I actually
shop
did it
sample.
twice. I did it once for a store sample and I did it once for myself. Very easy knit. The one that I did for the store sample, I put all the little baubles in. But when I did the one for myself, I left the baubles off because it's kind of a little bit of a crop sweater. Like it only just comes to kind of the bottom of your waist. And I just didn't want the feel of the baubles like rubbing against my arms. So for me, that was the only difference that I did for the one that I kept for myself was I left the baubles off. But I did it, and mine was done in, it was hedgehog fibers DK with 2 strands of a silk mohair. So
And
now
there's a
Sandy
hat
says she
pattern.
always has to go up. She's a tight knitter and always has to go up. So we're all different, right? So that's the whole purpose of, well, that is the whole purpose of swatching, because the details that are in the pattern are how the designer knits. So if you don't knit like the designer, you're most likely not going to be using the same size needle as the designer did. So, but the more you knit, I think the more you get to know how you knit and what size needles you need to get in order to achieve a particular fabric. So depending on what the weight is and what the tension called for is, you probably have a good starting point as to where you're going to start to decide what needles you're going to use. So, because I know with Caitlyn Hunter sweaters, I never get her. I find her tension is really, really loose.
But
So,
I've seen that in a lot of forums. There's a lot
yeah.
of people that have difficulty getting Caitlin's tension.
Someone's got a question here about Caitlyn. She says, do I have to go down several sizes for Caitlyn Hunter's patterns? What I actually do for her patterns is I knit a couple of sizes up, but at my tension, which is usually tighter than hers, because I find a lot of hers gives you really, really loose fabric. And I don't like really tight fabric, but I like it to have a bit more substance than some of the gauges that she has.
Mm-hmm.
So with her patterns, like for instance, I did the Tenya, a couple of them, and I went up in sizes, the size that I did, but I had to go down in needle size. So a bigger pattern, bigger pattern size but down in needle size from what she uses. So, because I think, I can't remember what I think it was a fingering weight yarn, and it was like 22 stitches, and I like fingering better, like at 24 or 25 stitches for the fabric it gets. So in order to do that, I've got to knit a bigger size, but on smaller needles.
Well, I didn't check what this is knitting at. Like, this is fingering weight, and this is, like, to me, this is a really loose tension. I don't know how well you can see. So, I mean, this isn't something that I would probably want my sweater to feel like.
Right.
But for a shawl, and I guess, that's the point, too. It's
right. It depends what you're knitting.
What you're using it for, right?
Yep.
Ewa just put in a funny comment. She says she likes this format. It's like going to a knit chat at a store, but no distraction of looking at gorgeous yarn.
Well, we could
pull our stash in here, I'm thinking we could sit in front of some stash. Maybe I could find a home for some of my stash out of my own stash. Maybe that's an idea.
Yep. So Linda's asking about the sweater again, and she said 2 strands of mohair, and the pattern actually does call for 2 strands of mohair. And I did do mine with 2 strands of mohair, but like I think if you go through and look, because I debated, but I think if you go through and look, there are people that did it with just 1 strand of mohair, and theirs looks fine too. Again, you've just got to be conscious of your tension. So, but I must say the DK weight and the 2 strands of mohair does make a very warm sweater. So because it's amazing, that is so much warmer than doing like a fingering with a strand of mohair. So now Sarah says she's seen Caitlyn Hunter knit, and she's a very loose knitter. So Linda, yes, when I did mine, I am knitting with 3 strands: 1 strand of the DK and 2 strands of the lace weight mohair.
Noelle, you went to a retreat in Florida. Wasn't Caitlyn Hunter there? Did you see her knit? Because I know you took some classes with her.
I had a class with her, but she didn't knit in it. The class was steeking. So beforehand, we had to have our swatch ready, but I don't remember seeing her knitting. I just have knit a few of her patterns and just know that when I look at her tension, I'm going to have to adjust to get what I want from it. But I don't recall actually ever seeing her knitting.
Okay.
But I just like, I mean, I like fabrics to be a little bit, like I like them relatively tight, but not too tight. I still want to have drape, but I also don't want them so loose, because I find if you do a fingering at a really loose tension, it's a lot easier to catch it on something and pull the yarn.
Yes.
So. Oh, there. See, Sarah said she made the Magnolia with no mohair, but she used an Aran weight yarn. So that's right. You can you look at what the tension is, right? And so you can either adjust it if you want to use a different tension, or you pick a yarn that's going to give that particular tension. And whether you achieve that yarn by one yarn that is that weight, or combining several yarns together to get that weight, you can do what works for you.
I've been actually thinking about doing exactly that, Sarah. I have some skeins of the Cascade Eco Plus, and I saw that a couple of people on Ravelry have actually used that to make the Magnolia. I had bought it. The intentions was for a cardigan. The Carbeth has that really, it's sort of a high collar. It sits up against your neck that I don't always care for that. So when I saw that about the Magnolia, I thought maybe that's a better use for the yarn. Now it's not knit, it's still sitting in a stash bin, but I'm ready to go if I decide on that.
Yep. Yeah, it would be nice in that. Because I've done, I actually did, and actually that was, I think, a little bit bigger tension. I did the Sunday cardigan, and I used the Cascade Eco Plus, but I held it with a strand of mohair. But I believe that the tension for the Sunday cardigan is a little bit looser than what it is for the Magnolia. Yeah. So, yeah, but I mean, it's nice so you can, have some fun combining yarns to get what you want. And it's amazing. It amazes me how different a fabric or a color can look when you put the mohair with it.
Yes.
So, because there's like options of putting a plain colored yarn with a multicolored mohair, or a multicolored mohair over a plain yarn, and you get a totally different effect.
Yes.
So Sarah says she finds that the Carbeth makes one's shoulders look really wide, which might not work for all body types. Yeah, it's kind of the one that cuts like this, I believe. Like, it's not raglan really. And I remember doing it, but I can't remember exactly how the decreases worked. But I didn't do the cardigan. I did the pullover, and I actually did it in Eco Plus. So, but I put my Eco Plus in the washing machine, and you shouldn't do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you put it in to wash it, or were you trying to spin it out to block it?
I think that I did for sure put it in to spin it out, and it did felt like I was able to kind of pull it apart enough that I can still wear it, but it's tighter than I would like it to be. I mean, it was perfect, like for the first couple of times that I wore it, and I think I might have even thrown it in thinking I could put it on like hand wash in the washing machine, and I shouldn't have. But I know that now. If I won't do that again. Actually, now I don't put, I don't even put my socks in the washing machine.
I still do some pairs. Some I won't. But like Croy socks can go in the washing machine.
Yeah, I still just wash.
I hang them to dry.
Yeah, I hang them all to dry, but I wash them all. Now the socks, I will put them in a garment bag after I've washed them to spin a lot of the excess water out of them. But I don't wash them in the washing machine. So.
Ewa said she would gladly watch an episode of the show where we show our stashes of yarn. Well, Ewa, nobody has that kind of time.
We don't have that time.
Oh, the stash is a little big. It's sinful, actually. It's a little big.
Yep. Yep.
I sit down here. This is my sewing space, my sewing room, and the stash wall is across from my sewing machine. And so when I'm down here working, sometimes I take a little sewing break and I just stare at the yarn or the wall of yarn and think,
yep.
I got to get knitting. I've got to get knitting.
Well, I do have all my stash. Well, okay. I have all my stash up to the beginning of this year in Ravelry. The rest of it's sitting waiting to be put in, but I do put it in Ravelry because I do find if I'm looking for something, it's a lot easier to have it there than to go and look through all the bins that I've got to try and find it. Yes. So on Ravelry, I actually list it. I've got my bins organized by, I've got several for fingering, lace weights, worsted weight, DK, chunky, and now I've also got ones that I've started putting fiber in. But it's all in Ravelry, and in Ravelry I list whether, like, all my lace is bin 1. Okay, all my fingering is, I've got 2A, 2B, 2C, but I put what bin it's in, so if I'm looking for something, I only have to go to the one bin instead of looking through my whole stash to find something. So...
You're a full distribution center.
Yeah. But I found that that's been a lot easier because if I know that all my stock, leftovers are in one bin, if I'm looking for colors to put together, they're all right there. So I can just go pull them out of the one bin and put something together. Whereas before I was just kind of putting them in bins as I got it. And it wasn't organized like that. And it would be like pulling, I don't know, like 4 or 5 different bins out to look for a particular color. So I find it a lot easier to have it organized by weight. So you've got yours in Ravelry, don't you, Kelly? You've got yours listed.
Everything except the bin of unlisted. I just have one bin of those. So when yarn comes to the house, I mark the date on the band, and then it goes to the unlisted bin. And when the unlisted bin starts to get a little wieldy, then I start photographing it and getting it into Ravelry. So currently the unlisted bin is full, and there are things on top of it.
Yeah.
So
well,
it's
Kelly,
time to get at that.
my unlisted bin is not an unlisted bin. It covers the top of a twin size bed. So, but luckily all our kids are moved out, so we have several extra beds to do that with. Anyway,
Yes.
so Sarah says she always spins her knits in the washer, gently spinning a laundry net, and has had no problem so far. Sometimes I think it depends on your washer, right? Because I think the washer that we had before, the one that we've got now, was actually gentler on the fabrics than the one that we've got now. So, you know, I don't know. Just because I've had that problem once, I'm really leery to put the sweaters in there. So unfortunately, if you don't spin the excess water out of them, it seems like it takes a long time for them to dry.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, we have someone from Virginia joining us. And PEI.
Oh, and hi, Shirley. Shirley's in here too.
Yep. And Debbie says she likes to have her stash in Ravelry too.
But she has it in there for one of the reasons that I most like too. So that when I'm looking at a pattern, and then when you click on the yarn tab, it will suggest what you already have in your stash for you. And it tells you how many meters of it you have, so you know if you have enough for the project. I really, really like that feature.
I didn't know you could do that. So if you look at a pattern, you can go to Yarn Ideas and it will tell you what you've got. Oh yeah, okay. So when you go to Yarns Use and then you click on the ones that said the ones in your stash, is that what you mean?
Yes, but it shows you how much you have in yardage in each of the yarns, right?
Okay.
So then you know if you have enough for the size pattern that you're looking at, or
right. Yes, I did do that. I was not thinking straight there. But
yeah, you probably told me about it.
Yeah, well, I'm old. I forget things. Sarah says hers is a front loader. Mine is a front loader too, but I even think all of them, because we had a front loader before that I believe was I thought easier on the fabrics than what the one that we currently have. Oh, Vonda said she's looking at the Winds of Change Cardi for her newest sport. I know, I have to get that out and see what I want to knit with that.
See, mine is sitting on top of that bin to be recorded. It's just sitting there.
Yeah.
So the Winds of Change cardigan is that
I don't think I'm sure
Byron
what that one
pattern?
is.
I'm not sure. But I'm going to remember it now, and I'm going to look up that pattern, because I still haven't settled on a pattern for that yarn.
I found a lot of patterns for it. I just can't decide what I want to do yet. So, and we've got a comment here about the roving that I showed on the last podcast. Is it like Briggs and Little? The roving that I showed, I think what you're talking about is the Plutolopi. And it is very similar. The only thing is with the Briggs and Little roving, their roving is like 5 strands held together. So I would say that the Plutolopi is like one of the strands of that. And I actually did debate taking the Briggs and Little roving all apart just into the one strands. But right at the moment, the way it comes is, at least the stuff that I have, is 5 strands all together. So you'd be using it for knitting something really thick if you used it like that. And I'm not sure how hard it would be to separate out those 5 strands into a ball.
I think you need 5 knitty friends to do
I
it.
think
And
so.
5 knitty friends can't gather in one room right now. So that's going to have to wait, Noelle.
Yeah, okay. Summer project.
If we all stand 6 feet apart and grab an end, we can pull.
So
that would be a lot of work.
That would be a lot of work. But I don't think I can't remember what the yardage is in one. Like, it's not like it's huge, but it's just the fact that you'd be rolling up 5 different balls. So, Oh, Denise Bayron is the Waves of Change.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because she had another.
But is that not a chunky weight though?
This is a new one.
Waves of Change and Winds of Change. So I don't know if we're talking about the same cardigan.
Okay. Oh, it's a lighter weight
Because
version
I know
without
the Denise
buttons.
Bayron one is a chunky weight.
But the wings of
Oh, there's a
chain.
light version without buttons. Okay, maybe that's it.
Bonnie, I'm
Or
knitting
Ellie Bonnie
the,
wants to know what you're knitting.
yeah, the lightweight hipster. And I'm on the final few rows. So,
So have you done your last row of the crosses?
yes. Yeah, I'm on
Okay,
the
so
final
you've
edges
just
of
got just
garter.
doing garter stitch.
2, 4, 6, 8. I think I have 6 more rows to do. And it's done. So it should be done this weekend.
Did you measure off your fringe?
Not yet.
See, when I got close to the end, I measured off my fringe,
I still
and I
have all of this.
kept knitting till I ran out of yarn.
Yeah, I've still got quite a bit to go.
To go, yeah. I think I ended up getting about 4 more garter stitch rows
Oh, okay.
than what the pattern called for. So,
I'll do that when I get to
so
that
yes, and so
point.
Sarah said waves of change is bulky, but then the other one was a lighter weight version. Sarah wants to know if the crossovers are tricky.
No.
I don't think they're tricky. They just take a little bit of time.
But you had a really positive way of looking at how much time they take because you said, and I remembered this.
Yes.
This is my third hipster, but my first lightweight one. I made 2 of the regular ones because I like how wearable the shawl is. But you said the crosses take a long time, but look at how long the crosses are. So even if you spend 45 minutes doing a row of crosses, you couldn't knit. Well, maybe you could,
No,
but that would be a lot of garter
that's
to
right.
knit in 45 minutes. So you make a lot of progress in that one row.
That's right. So you've got like one row, but when you're done, that's an inch of fabric in your
Mm-hmm.
so and they break up the garter stitch knitting.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a little lace pattern in between. So it is
Yep.
different
Yep.
than the heavier weight hipster for sure.
Yep. And it's going to be spring soon, and we'll be able to wear them.
I know. I had
So
plans to wear this, this I'm thinking this is like a local coffee shop shawl that you throw
yes.
on.
Yep.
I don't know. Not anytime soon, right?
No. Nope. Anyway, that was one thing we were talking about though. Like, I did hear that for this area that so far, um,
Woodstock.
Woodstock is supposed to be a go. So for anybody not kind of local to us, Woodstock is a festival that we used to have here every year in October. For us, it's about less than an hour and a half from where we live. It was a great fleece and fiber festival. They had barns outside with the animals. They had tons of vendors selling fleece and yarn. And I think Natalie was there one year with her pottery. So really nice festival. Now, last year, of course, there weren't any. But in the meantime, since the last time we went, which would have been 2019,
Mm-hmm.
the barns where they had it actually burnt down.
Right.
Then, of course, last year there wasn't any, but they are talking about having it this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that they're talking about having it in Paris, which not Paris, France,
No.
Paris,
No.
Ontario, which would
Yes.
be for us about 2 hours from us. But apparently that venue is actually supposed to be bigger. So, but I don't know. What do you think? Are you ready to go? Like, even if it's on,
Well,
are you ready to
maybe
go to
that's
a
a good
festival?
question to ask is if the festivals came back, are we ready to go? I I have
Are
to say
you?
if it were today, like if somebody said there's a festival next weekend, no, I'm not ready to go.
No.
Um,
I
ask me in the
definitely have to be
fall, I
vaccinated,
might
though.
be ready. I might be in the fall. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know, but I mean, do you remember when you're at Woodstock before and there's so many people there and just I don't know.
Well, I feel like it's going to be different. Like, you might be waiting outside the barn for quite a while to get in. I don't think that they will be able to have the same volume of traffic at the
Or,
festivals.
maybe for a while after, like, even when people are vaccinated, we're going to have to wear masks and things.
Mm-hmm.
Or I bet you will see more people just voluntarily wearing masks.
Yes.
So anyway, that's obviously, I don't have to make that decision right now anyway, so
Maybe this fall.
maybe. Okay, so Jamie said instead of knitting, she's making a list of her phone of all the Briggs and Little yarn. So she stops. So what I have, so I will stop buying the same colors. That's a good idea. So, and then Luana's getting, after seeing the Winter Beach Cardi, she's ordered the pattern and the same yarn. You will love the yarn. It's awesome.
Oh,
That
yes.
sweater, unfortunately for me, was a store sample for Little Red Mitten, but I am definitely doing that cardigan again for myself. I loved knitting it, and I loved the shape of the finished cardi, and I just think it'll be such a nice cardigan just to throw on over dresses or jeans or anything. So okay, and Sarah said she'd go to an outdoor festival. Not with the numbers, but if cases are lower in the fall. I think the only thing, like, it's kind of hard with an outdoor festival because you can't predict what the weather's going to be like. Like, I know a lot of Rhinebeck is outside, but there's also quite a bit of it that's inside. Like, if you have a totally outdoor festival and it happens to be like thunderstorms, like, what do you do?
Right.
Plus all the vendors' merchandise, and I don't know. I'm not ready yet.
Well, I think a lot of people are waiting. We've got some comments on here too, waiting to see what the vaccination situation is by then too.
Yeah.
And for me, like, it's the case count.
Yes.
But I'm pretty sure, the first round of things that we are able to go to will be pretty strictly regulated as per numbers and safety protocols.
Yeah.
I feel really bad for the yarn vendors that have missed a year of festivals. Like, I realize what an impact that has to their livelihood. But I think a lot of them have done really well transitioning to online sales.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've been shortchanged by not being able to go to festivals other than seeing. But as far as getting the product into my house, there's been no shortage rolling in through my front door. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it was just nice to go and see things in person and, see colors up close. And I mean, it was nice to see everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because when we went to Woodstock, we used to go with a group of people, or I don't know, it was just like, it's that sense of community is not the same just ordering it online.
No.
But again, we don't really want to do anything that's not safe. So.
But I really think too that the sense of community has grown due to technological not advances.
Yeah.
The technology's always been there, but we weren't necessarily getting together with friends to Zoom and knit and, to do things like this, maybe. So by having to be creative to find ways to stay in touch, maybe we actually stay in touch a little bit more. And we certainly are able to stay in touch with people outside of our own, like, physical community.
Right.
So our community has expanded in some regards. Not that I'm not trying to look for any positive in the COVID situation. It's just a negative situation. It's been a terrible situation, but I definitely feel like I've made some online friends through this, and I haven't necessarily felt lonely.
I mean, for us, it would be nice to continue to do this after, because obviously a lot of the people that we're talking to on here aren't from our local area. So,
us.
We wouldn't be able to connect with them other than like this. So we've got some more. I think pretty much most people agree, like it's a little early to make decisions on whether you're going to go to something like that or not. And most likely, at least for the first little while, there probably will be some sort of controls in place to keep crowds down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Welcome
Sarah
from
was asking
France to
about
Christine.
sorry?
Welcome from France to Christine. It's
Oh,
her
that's
first
nice.
time
Hi,
joining
Christine.
us.
And Sarah, yes, that the Winter Beach is the Andrea Mowry one. I think, yeah, it's called, I don't know if it's Winter Beach or Winter's Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And then I
Majo
agree. I
says,
agree. Go ahead.
yeah, Majo says that she doesn't have friends that knit. And I have to say, Majo, when I was knitting, well, for all the years that I was knitting, it's only been the last 5 years that I actually started to have physical friends that knit. I didn't know that knitting was something you did with somebody else. I thought you just knit at home by yourself. I didn't realize that people actually get together to knit. It's sort of I thought it was like a solitary sport, but it's, I have friends that knit now. I have good friends that knit, and it's really, it's definitely brings a new element to the craft, to be able to share your knitting and share your ideas and ask for help, use your resources of your friends.
Mm-hmm. See, I've been lucky, and I've always had a group that I've knit with, back from even when my kids were really little, like 2 and 3. And it's funny because when I was first like kind of in those type of groups, I was the young one in the group, right? They were all older than me, and now I'm the old one in the group. So, but that's okay because knitting is ageless. We can all do it. So I think we were having some discussions on the last knit chat about like people whose mums were 90 and still knitting. So Kelly, you and I will still be doing this when we're 90.
Oh, I hope my hands never give out. That's the thing.
Yeah. Or your eyesight.
Or my eyesight, I guess.
I mean, I already have magnifying glasses along with my regular glasses when I'm doing some finer lace work, just in case you make a mistake. So. Okay, so Sarah said it is Winter's Beach. So Debbie says she's an hour from any local yarn store, so she enjoys this format. Yeah, we were actually pretty like. We do have some yarn sources like fairly close to us, and I'm lucky because my daughter Jacqueline lives in London, which is only like 15 minutes from Little Red Mitten. So, and it's always nice to go on a road trip to go to a yarn store.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yes, but then somebody has to volunteer to drive, because
so we
if
can
you're
knit.
going to a yarn store, somebody wants to take that as time to sit and knit. Jess asked,
we got to take turns.
This is a question for you because you just finished it, but is the Winter Beach knit in one piece and then you knit the sleeves?
Yes. So you knit in one piece up to the armholes, and then you divide for the arms. You do each side, you join the shoulders, and then you pick up around the armhole and knit down for the arms for the sleeves. But the edging on the front is all done as you do it. So basically once you put the sleeves in, you're done. There's no other finishing on it except the pockets. There is pockets in it. I didn't find it that difficult. Someone asked if it was hard. It is cabled. I just kind of, because there's like 2 sets of cables in it, so there are different row counts for the repeats. So I just kept it in Knit Companion and just kind of went along like that. So I didn't find, basically it's just cables and moss stitch, so there's nothing really tricky in it. So. Anyways, Linda says that I'm not old, but she is. Linda, I'm sure you're not. None of us are old. We're just what was there's a one commercial about I'm not getting older, I just have better attitude or something. I can't remember. Anyway, Michelle says she likes this format, so she can knit in her pajamas. There you go.
Yes. Hand knits on top, pajamas on the
Yeah,
bottom.
that's right. That's right.
Cape 6 is from a small fishing village in Nova Scotia. So she's a lone knitter. I grew up in Nova Scotia. And so, yes, I know what that's like. I learned alone to knit, and any of the knitting that I did in Nova Scotia was definitely on my own. Now, that's a long time ago. I'm sure they have some knitting groups now. But it does surprise me, in a fishing village, there must be other knitters. Who's making those fisherman sweaters?
Once we can travel, Kelly, we can go visit.
We can we do the cross country knitting tour.
That's right. I love Nova Scotia.
It's such a pretty province. We only had one store in town.
Knitting until she's 90, so she doesn't leave her stash behind. I don't even want to think about that. Oh, someone in North Elizabeth is getting her second vaccine tomorrow.
Oh.
That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So.
She's in North Carolina, though. The United States is so far ahead of us.
Yeah, they're ahead of us. So, Kelly, Mary wants to know, what's your favorite thing to knit? Do you have a favorite thing?
I think socks. I don't know. Because they're a smaller project, and you can take it with you anywhere, and you can pick it up, put it down. You see progress quickly, and I don't think you can ever have enough socks. I have bins. I have bins for my socks too. Maybe I'll show. Right. I maybe flash my sock bin. Maybe not my yarn stash, but I wouldn't be ashamed to flash a sock bin. And I'm a little OCD about how I fold them, because I like them to look a certain way in my little tote. And then I have them segregated between full-size socks and shorty socks. Those are in separate. So I like that. And then when my daughter comes to visit, the stash gets smaller, because she's like, oh, I like these, and oh, I like these. And she has a lot too. She gets probably almost as many pairs as I knit for myself, I knit for her. She's sock worthy.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite thing. I just like knitting. I like knitting. I like different types of knitting for different times. Like, I like some things that are a challenge, but obviously I have to be in the right mind frame to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I like to have socks because I can usually take them anywhere and do whatever. Sometimes it's just a yarn and I want to see how the yarn knits up. But the only thing I don't like knitting is intarsia. I will do it, like if like the grandkids wanted a particular thing, but I do not enjoy it. I just don't like doing it. Okay, so Sue says that her husband bought her magnifying glasses with lights on them for small knitting work. I do.
Nice
I have the magnifying glasses. They don't have lights. And act like a little bit darker, so that does help too.
Well, you're knitting on a larger sweater right now.
So what do you have? I am actually. I just don't know that I really have any tips. How about you, Kelly?
Knit it in the cooler weather. That's my tip.
Yeah.
Then it's a little bit of a lap blanket for you.
Well, some people say that that's why they like doing sweaters that are knit in pieces. So you've only got a piece of a sweater at a time that you're working on. Mm-hmm. But I'd really rather deal with the bulk and not have to sew the sweater together. But I just kind of keep moving it around so it's on different parts of my lap or sitting it beside me, but I don't really have any tried and true tricks that help with it.
So something else maybe that we want to chat about too, Noelle and I talked about this earlier this week, is I think we're going to start a Ravelry chat. Chat's not the right word. Discussion in our forum, I guess. and we're going to call it the Sunday Knit Chat, and for a couple of reasons. So number one, it's an easy place for you to reach out to us, maybe if you had questions about anything we talked about on these sessions. But also, we think it would be fun if you could add some of the projects that you're talking to us about into that, and then we can continue our chat, throughout the week, I guess, and have a look. Because I guess the problem with this platform is you can see what we're working on, but we can't physically see what you're working on. So if we start a Ravelry thread, that was the word I was looking for. If we start a Ravelry thread, then you could add your projects into there too, and then we could see what it is that you're working on.
Yep.
And if you have anything that you want us to cover on any particular Sunday too, like maybe there's something you wanted to know, and then that would give us a little chance to kind of look into things too before we respond. So.
Yeah, and plus, sometimes in this format, like we're trying to watch the comments as they go down, and
we might miss
sometimes
one.
we get talking about something and we might miss something. So if there's something that you've asked and we haven't answered it, if you just pop it in that chat, we'll go in and we'll do our best to answer it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, we don't want to anybody to feel like we're not getting to everything, but it's just hard when things come across to make sure that we're getting to everything that's on here. So, but we'd love to answer it if you pop a question in that knit chat.
Now we have a visitor from Iceland.
Wow.
Another faraway
I'd love
place.
to go to Iceland.
To go to Reykjavik. So pretty there.
Yeah. We're going to go to all these nitty places, Kelly, after. Remember, we even had our husbands talking to going to Edinburgh, and then they canceled Edinburgh, and then we're in a pandemic.
I know. So many nitty travels.
Yep. So, okay, so what's your favorite sweater, Kelly? Do you have a favorite sweater? Or sweater yarn? What's your favorite sweater yarn? Oh, that's hard.
Oh gosh. No, I don't have a favorite.
I don't have a favorite, but I tend to favor, for sweaters, I tend to favor
something you can add mohair to.
And mohair, yeah. But I would rather knit sweaters, at least adult sweaters, in non-superwash yarn.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I feel like they're going to stay more true to the size that you knit with them.
Right.
And I mean, having said that, I have done sweaters in fingering weight, but in fingering weight superwash, but my preference is actually a more rustic yarn.
Mm-hmm.
So.
My preference
someone's
is
in
not
Maryland
rustic.
and they don't have any vaccinations. So I think it's not all places in the States that are getting their vaccinations as quickly.
Okay.
And Sarah doesn't mind seaming. Well, I'd like to say that I don't mind seaming, but I don't like seaming. You said you don't mind seaming, Kelly.
I don't mind seaming. I like it.
Do you?
It's another challenge to make the seam invisible. And I just think I don't know. I don't mind. I don't know why I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I would rather seam a sweater than weave in an end.
All of the sweaters I did when the kids were younger were basically all seamed, because that was, other than like an Icelandic style, everything was seamed. There was no like top down or. So I did have to seam all of those, but I did not enjoy the seaming part. So. Okay, so Collins Knit says that she's thinking a few bottle of wine and five friends, and she'll be all set to ball up her Briggs and Little. Well, I think we should have that party in the summer. What do you think, Kelly?
Absolutely.
A roving party. And someone asked, rosing? I think it's roving, R-O-V-I-N-G, and it's just like an unspun yarn. So it means if you pulled it like this, it would just come apart. But it also means when you're knitting with it and you do that, you can kind of just do this quickly and the yarn will kind of catch on to each other and stick back together. So. And Sue says she's knit lots of socks for her husband and he's very supportive. Yeah, I've knit lots of socks for my husband, and he is for the most part, very supportive. He just doesn't like to see the stash getting bigger and bigger.
So I have knit exactly 0 socks for my husband. Um, I actually didn't think that he would really like them, but lately he's been asking for some. So now I think I'm going to have to knit him some. But I'm just worried that if I make him some, he's going to like them. And then that's going to cut into my knitting time for me.
But you like knitting socks.
Well, I like knitting them for me.
Anyway, it's funny because you never know when people, if they like them or not, right? Because when I first started doing socks for my older kids, when they got older, like I had made some for my one son, and I hardly ever saw them on his feet. So I thought, okay, that's fine. So if he doesn't like socks, I'm not, my feelings aren't hurt or anything, but I'm going to make it for the ones that I know like them. So it was probably about 4 or 5 Christmases ago. I didn't make everybody a pair of socks, but I made a lot of them socks, and I hadn't made this particular son a pair of socks. Well, he was not happy. It was a really snowy day on Christmas, and he'd go, "Well, I'd go shovel the snow, but I don't have any warm wool socks to put on to go and
Ah, I
shovel."
see how that works. Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, but I do. They all do like their socks, and I know that for a fact because even if I go and visit unexpectedly, a lot of times they have their socks on, not just when they come over to visit. So, and it's nice if you know that the people that get them appreciate them.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, Kelly, you should be making Mike a pair of socks, at least one pair.
Sharon wants to know if I have a short sock recipe that I follow. I sort of do, um, but I have a few of those recipes, so I don't have any one that I probably do more than another. But if you're able to go onto Ravelry, and if you go to my project page, you can look at any of the socks. If it's a sock of my own pattern, like my own sock recipe, I usually put very detailed notes, like how I cast on, how many rows I'll do before I start a heel, if I'm using an afterthought heel, how I go about that. And it's pretty easy because if it's something similar, then I'll just copy and paste from another sock recipe I've done. So if it is just something that I'm creating out of my own mind, then there's a good chance that you've got some detailed notes on there to follow. And then again, if you have any questions, just send me a message and happy to help out with that.
Yep, and Christine says she's knitting the Marichen by Isabel Kramer, and it's her first cardigan with Loch Lomond Bio by
Uh,
BC Garn. Oh, I think I have some of that, the BC Garn. Anyway, so
Congratulations on your first cardigan.
no kidding, that's awesome. So,
I keep looking at that sweater. That's one of the sweaters that it's in my favorites list, and I keep looking at it. I haven't found the perfect yarn for it yet, but I love that pattern. There's just something about the detailing that goes down either side of the button band. It's like a nice, it looks like a simple cardigan, but it's fancy enough, the work that is on either side that it's very appealing.
so I
Very
can't remember
appealing.
that one. So is the base of it just stocking stitch,
Yes, I
but
think
it's got
around
the
the
detail
sides and
like
the
around.
back. Mm-hmm. But it's like a traditional cardigan band that meets
Okay,
in the middle, like sort of like the, I don't know where it goes like this, just the points, right? But it has a
okay,
really pretty lace design down on either side of the button band.
okay. I
It's
think I know
really
the one you
nice.
mean. Yeah, it is really pretty. But there's so many of sweaters that she does, either cardigans or pullovers, that the bulk of the sweater is stocking stitch, but she just has that little tiny bit of decorative detail that
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
just sets it and
Yep.
looks beautiful, right? So then for the most part, your sweater looks a whole lot more complicated than what it is, and that little bit of detail really gives it that added little extra.
Sarah's laughing at me because she said I did admit to having a bin of socks. Yes, Sarah, but they're my bin of socks, not his. I like my bin of socks.
Well, Rachel says that they actually love their socks and they're wearing them right now.
Oh,
That's
there you go.
Rachel's my daughter-in-law, so it was her husband that complained about me not knitting socks for him. So now he does get them all the time.
My daughter sent me a picture the other day, and she was sitting up on the couch, sprawled out, and there was her two dogs, and then you could see her feet, and she had on some socks that I had knit. So I like that. It looks good.
Yeah. So Jess says that her daughter called her out of the blue and said she needed more hand knit socks. Like, I think that's awesome when your children get to the point where they do appreciate the knitting. So I even said to my daughter who knits and Rachel, my daughter-in-law who knits, said, "Well, I don't have to knit them and their spouse's socks anymore because they can knit them for them." Well, they don't like that idea. So I guess I still have 15 pairs to go for next year.
That's a mom
But
thing,
we're
though,
done.
right?
We're done.
Even if they know how to do something themselves, they still like it when mom does it for them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and plus, well, this year they really won't have a theme, but I usually try to do some sort of theme, like whether it's Christmas colors or self-striping, or last year was the work socks. So this year it's actually, they're all getting self-patterning. So, oh, Kelly,
Sandy
Rachel,
tried the donuts.
is that the timber yarns? Oh no, the donuts. I was thinking of the donut.
No, the donuts that I
sock
baked.
yarn.
She tried the recipe, and she said that they turned out great, and everybody loved them.
Awesome.
They were so good. I haven't made any more, but I will.
I know, you
And
have to bring some to work with you and I'll come over.
okay, but aren't they guilt-free? Like, I baked them. You don't fry them, you bake them in the oven. So doesn't that make them a guilt-free donut? I think we
I
can all
think
eat a
that any
donut if it's
donuts that your
baked.
friend gives to you are guilt-free. Kelly, Rachel wants to know if you got any Shirley Bryan yarn today.
Oh, no, I didn't, because I actually got cart jacked today. I had some yarn in there. I was on there at 12 o'clock. I had thought I will get one colorway. I had the Aslan colorway in my cart, and I was checking out, and there it went. Somebody else took it. And then I later learned that Noelle's daughter, Jacqueline, was successful in obtaining the Aslan. So, Jacqueline, I'm pretty sure it was you that cart jacked me. Hope you enjoy knitting them. No, I'm not bitter. Not at all. Not at all.
Oh well, it seems like there's always updates on the Sundays that we're chatting. Maybe that's a popular day for yarn dyers to have an update. I guess because a lot of people would be off work, right?
Yes. Joan wants to know how to darn the bottom of a worn knitted sock. There's a few methods. It depends on, well, for me, it depends on where,
Yeah.
because then that will give me an understanding of what my foot will tolerate the mend to be. And I have a darning egg, I think they're called, that I put in the sock. The easiest way that I learned is, it makes me think like of a weaving loom. You just go like side to side, picking up some decent stitches so that you have your rows going this way, and then you alternate from the other side, going under, over to fill in the gap. Now, if that were right on the bottom of my heel, I probably wouldn't like it, but if it's somewhere else in the sock, I'm okay with that. There are other methods. One that I like, if I'm going to feel where the mend is going just below where the hole is and picking up those stitches and turning that into a live patch, and then you can knit like a little square patch and then just stitch the edges of the patch back into the sock. That's a pretty decent method as well. That's something I could probably do a tutorial on.
I fix socks for my husband, but he tends to wear it out on the heel. And if you do an afterthought heel, it's kind of easy to go in and fix that, because you can actually go in and re-pick up the stitches and then just knit like a whole new heel in it, right? Yeah. But if it's on the ball of the foot where you're talking about, then that's a little bit more difficult to patch it up to make it comfortable and sturdy. But yeah, you should, Kelly, do a tutorial if you've done that
Mm-hmm. She said it's on the ball of her
on the
foot.
ball of the foot. Yeah.
That's going to be tricky. That's probably where I would pick up the stitches and knit a new patch and then just tack down that patch on the outside edges. I think you'd feel that less than the woven method. It also depends on the weight of the sock. Like that's something that you have to take into consideration too. If it's a bulkier sock, you probably wouldn't feel it as much. But if the sock weight is fine, it's, I don't know. There's a few methods. No, Mary, I don't have a tutorial video yet, but that might be something that I would put up for sure. Tracy uses a duplicate stitch if it's threadbare and no hole yet. That's
Okay.
That's a good method too, Tracy. Yeah.
Well, that's if you kind of keep an eye on them too, right? And if you notice that they are starting to wear, it's, I guess, once, depending if they're not your socks, if there's someone else's who doesn't tell you there's a hole in them,
Yes.
or if it's wearing.
Mm-hmm. Well, if they're my sock, let me say that with 2 bins full of socks,
I was going to say, Kelly,
they're not going to get worn enough to get to the threadbare position. But I've definitely darned socks. I had some old, kind of like work socks, but out of a heavier wool that I used to wear like as house slippers. And that's where I did most of the darning, on something like that, where you're actually using them and they're on floors instead of in your shoes. And like, I know I've had quite a few pairs of knitted slippers that I've worn the ball out of my foot. So that is where I would use the weaving method, and I'm okay with that because I would still have socks inside of those slippers.
beside it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
I just,
so
I've only ever
today,
fixed heels. I've never fixed bottom.
no,
No.
so tomorrow's my dad's birthday. So I got up this morning and I made a lasagna and a cherry cheesecake. That's his favorite. So I have to get the lasagna baked, and then we're doing a meal delivery to his apartment, and we're going to have dinner with him in the open area of the apartment building, not in his apartment yet. Still not comfortable getting that close in a confined space with him, even though he lives alone. I do go out in the community, so I'm still taking precautions for him, but thought he would like that.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I know we talk about, like, will we go to a yarn festival? Like, I'm just still waiting till I can have my whole family over for dinner.
Exactly.
So it's hard to think
Exactly.
past about going to a yarn festival. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, Shirley made a
So-
comment here that she's knit 1 pair of socks, but she's so proud of them she hasn't worn them. Shirley, wear them.
Oh, Shirley, wear the socks. Don't save them. Wear them. Then you can sit and knit and admire your socks.
That's right. While you're knitting the next pair.
Wear the socks for sure.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So Christine's asking about what yarn she can use. She'd like to use
For
pure
mending the
wool,
sock?
not superwash. I've used the Mondim yarn, and it's 100%. I believe that it's 100% wool and non-superwash. I mean, the nylon in the sock does give it that extra strength that, you know, like it's going to wear better. But I believe that if 100% merino or 100% wool is more tightly spun, it will have more resistance to like pilling and wearing. So I don't know. I would still say the bulk of socks that I do are probably in a superwash yarn with nylon in it.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
Cherry cheesecake. Jess loves cherry cheesecake.
I haven't had any. I don't think I've had cheesecake since the pandemic started.
It's his favorite. He really likes it.
Yep.
He must have questions about something about dinner because he's called twice while we've been
Well, you've been
online here.
podcasting.
So, yeah.
Well, it's 20 after 3, so we probably should.
Yeah, I've got to get that into the oven or it won't be ready to
Yep.
take.
Yep.
So,
So again, everybody remember, we're going to set up that chat
Ravelry
thread
thread.
on Ravelry. So if you've got any questions at all, or anything that you want us to answer, or anything that you had a question about that we didn't get answered here, just pop it in there, and we'll do our best to get you an answer.
Mhm.
So
And we'll be back next Sunday for another Knit Chat.
Yep.
Because it's not a podcast week.
Yep.
So thank you for spending a part of your Sunday with us.
Yeah.
And sharing
Thanks.
your projects and your time.
Yep. So, quick couple of questions here. Kathy wanted to know about the Mondim yarn. I found that it wore well. I just found that you had to be careful with it when washing it because it would tend to felt more.
Okay.
So, anyway, so anything else, if we haven't answered it, just pop it in the chat thread and we'll get back to you. Okay, so other than
Okay.
that, we'll talk to everybody next week, same time.
Yep. Happy Sunday. Happy making.
Happy knitting. See you soon.
Take care.
Okay, bye.